This is a video on harmony. Harmony is such that harmony in terms of different chord identities. I don't like too much chord qualities. Quality indicates something is better or worse. You know, good quality, bad quality, so on. That's not the connotation I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is something that describes a particular chord or scale. So we call identity. Identity as far as how it sounds. That has an identity. C major. It's not a quality unless you want to figure that kind of thing. Loud and soft. But identity simply means that it has its own uniqueness. That major has its own uniqueness. It's a unique sound which is pretty much unmistakable. Same thing as a major scale. Unmistakable. But music, like the spoken language, has an enormous amount of variables. Tenses, moods, all that kind of thing. Music, its character, it's all those abstract terms that does not describe people, places, and things, but emotions. It's sounds. And we can identify those sounds by their characteristic intervals. The major scale, the major triad, the characteristic interval is the major third, of course. Now, Bach may end a prelude, for instance, on C major. Well, it has only two notes in it, C and E. But we call it a C major triad, even though it doesn't have the fifth. You could put the fifth here, you could put it here. Sometimes a piece will end on just a single note. And if that's in a minor key, you can assume that that is a minor triad. It lingers in the air, I guess. Okay. Now, as far as a way of harmonizing, we have to have some kind of way to do this that's not terribly complex, but that can be worked with a variety of songs, and maybe not, not all the way through on one little idea, but at least it gives us some kind of a starting point, and this gives a very good starting point. We have a third on the bottom of this arrangement, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 on top. So 3 on the bottom, 4 on the top. See, that produces harmony. If we put something in the bass, it can alter the harmony. So for instance, that C major, put the C in the bass, it's a C major harmony. However, if we play this and put an A in the bass, it no longer is a C major harmony. It now becomes A minor. From A to C, bring that C down here, you've got a step and a half, which now becomes a minor third, and a step below the upper octave of A is the minor seventh. So that's an A minor chord. What if we put an F on the bottom? Now, what do we have here? Perfectly good harmony on, it's an F major 9 chord. Alright? Now, here's your upper F. Half step below the upper octave is the major 7th. You've got the 9th here, a step above the root. It would be 2, but then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the 5th. So you have an F major 9 chord here. How about D? Alright. Well, what do we have here? Well, first of all, we've got the 9th. We got the 11th. 4 is sometimes called a 4, especially if you move it to a 3, but I think as an identifiable sound we can call that an 11th chord. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then you have the minor 7th up here. Now, you can say that that alone is not a terribly attractive sound. But when it's part of a whole milieu of harmonies and so on, it can be quite attractive. Also, it gives a modern sound, which I think we all need to start working with instead of the very basic, that kind of thing. We've heard that for hundreds of years. It's time to change into something that's a little bit more interesting. For instance, let's take the Christmas song. Okay? C major. That's a C9-11 chord. Now it goes rather quickly into this, on down. Now what's this chord? C major, 7, the 9th, and the 5th. Now that is a C major, or you can call it F major with a 5th in the bass. F-A-C with 5th in the bass. Or you can call it a C major, added 6, there's your C, and there's, the 11th. So there's various ways you can spell the chord also. Okay, the 5th, the 7th, the 3rd. C major 7 chord. And there's your 4th degree here, called an 11 chord. If you want to do that, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So the whole little passage, which is a scale down, contains harmony. And if you keep this, either here or here, each one is an identifiable harmony. Not only as to what the characteristic intervals are, but in terms of the sound that they make. Let's do something different. Now, there's a very nice harmony here. What we have here is you've got first of all a tritone here. Always when you have a tritone, I shouldn't say always, should I? Most of the time, or a good deal of the time when you have a tritone, it represents the characteristic intervals of the dominant. Well, there's your minor 7th, there's your major 3rd of the G dominant. Well, there it is. So this is the 7th of the chord. There's the root, there's the major 3rd, there's the 5th. If you take the G off, it still has that quality of a dominant sound without a root. Ooh, isn't that rather nice? We go from here to here. Now, there's your minor 7th of the dominant, there's your 9th, there's your 5th. E, G, B, D, okay? The E chord. Alright, there you have it right there. You've got the minor 9th here. There's the 2nd, so the minor 9th. You see, if I put the 5th in here, because it's a little bit more identifiable, but it's okay. Now, each one of those chords I've played can be analyzed in terms of whether it's a 9 chord, an 11 chord, a 13 chord. Now you don't go above 13 because by the time you get to 15, it's back to the root. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15. So there's your whole gamut of chords here. Now you've got even alterations of those also, but you're talking about now modern harmony, done as simply as we can possibly do it. Well, all right, now we've talked about Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, all right? Well, there you have it. There's your right hand arrangement. 1, 2, 3 for the bottom part. Doesn't matter what identity it is. It happens to be a minor third here, but that's not important. The important thing is you got a third here and a fourth here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of those sounds has a unique quality to them, a unique identity. And quality, I guess we can use because it just has a particular sound, unique sound to it. And I don't think that we need to continue with being so pure as to, you know, that has to match there. Well, there's in the harmony, the theory books. The theory books as they are written today are geared strictly to old-timey kind of stuff that things are more acceptable or less acceptable. I'm sorry, but that's just not true. Nothing is more acceptable or less acceptable except as you determine it individually. And then as you, as a composer, you might like certain things that somebody else doesn't. Or they are so unique that somebody else has to get used to them. As in the works of, let's say, Claude Debussy. Yeah, you've got, and we're sort of used to his harmony now, but you know, you take something like his Gollywog Cakewalk, there's a lot in there that just doesn't fit the theorist's concept of acceptable. Certainly the more modern composers of even of 75 or 100 years ago, Stravinsky and Bartók, their sounds were completely different than the theorists' acceptable and less acceptable, that kind of thing. So when you are working on something that is a particular song that you like, do not be afraid of modern sounds, but it has to make some kind of sense nonetheless. You know, you get the spoken language. Certain words do not mean the same thing today as they did 100 years ago, for example. We don't use the word thou anymore. Or, you know, certain expressions. Oh, ain't that nice? That's sort of, you know, we just don't, that's not too acceptable. And it wasn't acceptable very much way back when either. But it's just the idea that we live in a different age and we should work toward a more modern sound. This is fine. Each one of these chords on white keys is a different sound. Let's take a look at that. All right? C major. You put the C in the bottom and you got a major third. I mentioned that. Well, that's minor. Okay. I'm putting the root on the bottom here for convenience sake. There's diminished. Now, if you have a different key, G major, you've got to watch out for the fact that you've got an F sharp. I started on E minor, didn't I? Let's take minors up at another time. G major. That's a minor, that's a major sound because of the major third. A minor third. Let's bring the root up here. And you can see A, C, E, but the arrangement this third plus the fourth. Now that's a diminished, and that has a completely different sound to it than either the minor or the major. But in G major we have an F sharp. Now that changes it completely. Okay? Now we've got B, the minor third, and the fifth. The normal fifth. Okay? Now, there is the tritone I spoke of before. That's the minor seventh, the major third of D. And then, so we can do. Okay. That, you can use it if that is a sound that you want in any particular situation. But these two tones here, which form a tritone, there's tritone means three tones, three step. There's a step, 1 to 2 the step, 2 to 3 another step, and this one to this other note of the tritone is another whole step. So 3 whole step or 3 tones, therefore we call it tritone. F. Now there's your minor seventh, major third of C. So, very straightforward, very nice, not a problem. You got, when you use that tritone as the characteristic interval of a missing root, because here you have definitely the missing root. Okay, we'll go into that in much more detail in a later time. So anyway, now practice that in the key of C, in the key of G, and the key of F with a B flat. Transposing is always a wonderful way to learn the mechanics, shall we say, of music. Music, however, to be music, must have that element of the abstract. Character, emotion, feelings, all that sort of thing that cannot be described in concrete terms, people, places, and things. Okay, so you get the little song, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Now, if you keep the C in the bass there, there's a C major 7th chord. The major 7th, the 9th, C major 9th chord then, and the 5th. You can call that a C major because you got the major 3rd here, and the added 6. 5, 6, 5, 6. Or you call it an A minor. Again, how you describe these chords is up to you as to how you best can think of them, how you best can hear them. Do you hear that as a C major with an added 6, or do you hear that as an A minor with the minor 3rd on the bottom? Root, minor 3rd, put that minor 3rd on the bottom. Do you hear it that way, or do you hear it as a C major 6 chord, added 6? F, A, and C with the 5th in the bottom. Root, 3rd, 5th. Major 3rd, major 7th. There is your 9th. There is your 6th. And there's your 4. 4 and 6. So you can call it a 4-6, or you can call it a 13 chord. Especially 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Call it a 5. Move your left hand instead from keeping it on C, move it to G. Improvisation is making choices. So improvisation is choices. Nothing more, nothing less. You make choices as to, now you've got your basic melody, which of course can, as we've mentioned before, anything at all to decorate the melody. We've done in another video we did a lot of that. But right now we're concerned with harmony. Let's do something different. That's attractive, I think. That's a little too plain. I like that a bit better. Again, my choice. And it's your choice. Do you like that or do you like something different? You got to understand there's the regular sounds of old time theory, music theory, or you've got the sounds of today. And you can vary that. Okay. Now, you can vary this also, but I don't want to do it right now. Let's stick with this because you really should stick with this. Take something else. That's it. You're experimenting, you're using it. Now, the point to all this is you learn by improvisation. You learn by sitting at the piano and trying everything you can think of, and then doing it in a different key. You got to think about that. Something a little bit different here. Always strive for something a little bit different than what you usually do. And of course, when you take a lead sheet, you learn the melody, whatever piece you're playing, and you learn the melody, and then you are working with this kind of thing. In minor keys, we'll go over that in another video. But I hope this gives some kind of an idea of the possibilities of sounds. But you've got to be acquainted with those sounds. You have to be aware of those sounds and their characteristic intervals. These are items that are never mentioned in any theory class, theory manual, or piano lesson. Because unfortunately, the bulk of piano teachers do not improvise. They do not teach that. They teach that you've got to play exactly what's written, whatever it happens to be. You know, and you start hearing this over and over and over, all wrong. And you know, there was one high school music class that had a grand piano, and on the piano was a note. 4 Elise is not permitted on this piano. Because everybody starts off. And you hear this over and over and over, and pretty soon it drives you nuts. And I'm sure it did the instructor who put that note there that it's forbidden. Well, that's about it. You've got to work these things. There's a video that I have on drills versus music. Also, it has to do with cognitions. Cognitions are so important because a cognition is the kind of thing that you never knew was possible. And now it's, oh, you see it, or you can do it. Oh, is that what it is? That's what a cognition is. And you've got to work these things until you have cognitions that you really do understand and hear what is going on in this language of music. And this is the first part of it right here. Other than your basics, major scale, which you should be familiar with this kind of thing without any difficulty. If you can't do that in your major scales, it's difficult to do anything else easily. Anyway, carry on. That's all. Bye-bye.